5 things I wish I knew as a beginner acoustic guitar player. Let's go. So these, there are so many things. There are many things that I wish I would have done differently when I just started playing acoustic guitar, 10 almost 10 years ago. But these are probably some of the most important things that I, thinking about, and when I teach people and when I teach students, these are things I really focus on. So the first thing, when I started playing, the first thing I wish I knew was how many songs you can actually play with just 4 chords. And sometimes just 3 chords. So, I mean, if you've seen all of my lessons that I do, most of them are just like 4 chords, and some of them are only 3 chords. And that's not like me making these songs up, making them into like only 4 chords. These are the artists and then, the worship leaders in the churches and whatever other songs I'm doing. It's usually just 4 chords. So I wish I would have known that, because it probably would have given me just, especially the chords, in the key of G. So like the G chord, the C chord, the E, the D chord, and the E minor chord. I wish I knew the chords in the key of G, like that family, the ones I just showed you, because really with the capo, you can put the capo on here and play those same chords, and it's it allows you to play so much. So even, not just like Christian worship songs, the lesson I did a couple months ago, maybe on learn how to play during COVID. I mean, there are like country songs you can play with 3 or 4 chords, indie pop songs like Ed Sheeran songs, Taylor Swift songs, 3, 4 chords. So I kind of wish I knew that, and I wish I knew those chords, because it would have allowed me to better kind of like focus and know for sure, like have a little bit of an organization, as opposed to me trying to learn all of these different chords, like this G chord, and then I would try to learn like this full A chord, and then I would be like, oh, okay, let's learn a D chord, and then let's learn an E chord. And then it's just, there was no structure to it, no organization. So I wish, first of all, the first thing I wish I knew was that just so many songs you could do in just 4 chords. The second thing I wish I would have known earlier is just kind of the trick when you're playing with these chords, the G chord, the C chord, the D chord, and the E minor chord. Is just it's not a trick, but it's just the little method of keeping your ring finger and pinky finger on the bottom 2 strings, so like the 3rd fret here on the high E string and the B string, and keeping those as like your base and foundation, because then you have your G, then to get to your C chord, you just boom, to get to your D chord, boom, to get to your E minor chord, boom. If you need a D over F sharp, boom. So I wish I would have known this method, as opposed to trying to learn like this kind of 3-finger G, and then going to like an E minor with just, those 2 fingers, and then maybe going to just this 3-finger D, just kind of the regular D chord, and then going to this C major chord. I mean, as you can tell, there is just so much movement on this hand, these fingers. Whereas, if I were to play those same chords using the ring and the pinky finger on there, G, E minor, D, C. It's just so much more easy, and it allows you to play just more fluidly and more smoothly and more rhythmically, because you're focusing less on, you know, going there, going here. You're focusing more on just the rhythm of the song, the timing of the song. So like if I were to play How Great Is Our God, you know, the chords would be you're the name above all name. The bridge. You are E minor, worthy of all praise, and our C hearts will sing how great to the D is our God. So if I played that like without the pinky and the ring finger on there, and I just kind of did like all of these chords over here, yes, it would still work. It would still sound all right, but it would make it so much more challenging. So watch this. You're the name above all name. You are worthy of all praise, and our hearts will sing how great is our God. So it kind of makes those changes more challenging than they need to be. And I wasn't like going slow or anything intentionally or purposefully. That's just it. When you're changing chords like that and using those chord voicings and formations, you have so much movement with your fingers that it throws you off the timing. And instead of going right to this E minor, you might have to go. You might think about it for a half second, and then a half second is going to completely throw you off. So anyways, that would be definitely the second thing I wish I knew as a beginner. Third thing I wish I knew was which strings, like what in the world strings I should be strumming. I talk about this a lot in my lessons, and I've got individual lessons for a lot of this stuff. I'll put it in the description and like link some of the lessons up here so that you guys can actually go to those and use those as resources, because I can't really explain literally everything in just this one lesson. It would take forever, but I do have those available, so make sure you check those out. So as I say in most of my tutorials, we got to make sure we're strumming the right strings, because for the longest time when I was a beginner and when I was playing, you know, I just assumed, right? So I assumed that, well, there are 6 strings, so I should probably be strumming them literally on every single chord. And that's just not the case, because you want to make sure you're playing the bass note of the specific chord and everything underneath it. So like, let's say we're playing in the key of G. So we have our G chord, we have our C chord, our E minor chord, and our D chord. So the G chord, yeah, we want to strum all strings because, you know, we've got the bass note up here. For this C chord, our bass note is that A string where our middle finger's on. So we want to be strumming just that one and below. So we don't want to be hitting this top E string. Because as you can tell and hear, that just does not sound like very good. Same thing with this D chord. We don't want to be strumming every single string for that D chord, because that we're adding in extra bass notes that shouldn't be there. So this, this really kind of frustrated me when I was just learning. I'm like, why? I feel like I have my fingers in the right place. I feel like I have them, they're on the right strings. They're holding the strings down. Why is it not sounding the way it should sound? And, over time, I just realized that, oh, okay, like, yeah, you shouldn't be strumming every single string for all these chords. So again, lessons on this stuff in the key of G. I'll put some of those down below. For the key of C, like the C chord, the F chord, the A minor, the G, I'll put, that lesson down below. Chords in the key of D, the D, the A sus, the B minor, and the G chord. I have a lesson on that, which strings you should be strumming. So definitely check those ones out, because I think that's probably going to make a really big impact on your playing. And I think it's probably the number one thing I see with beginner players, the number one mistake I see with beginner players and even intermediate players, because you don't think about it and you're like, oh, I have 6 strings, so I'm just gonna bang them all on every single chord. So so that would be my third tip. Kind of piggybacking here off the strumming. Strumming is so tough. I get it. I struggled so much with strumming, with the rhythm. I was always losing my pick in this little hole here. I was just, strumming was an absolute disaster for me for many years. And I think one of the reasons why it was harder than it should have been is because I didn't really realize, and no one really talks about this a lot, the importance of just a thin pick. So like this pick I have here, it's got so much bend and so much give. It allows for a little bit more room for error. So you don't have to be perfect on every single strum. Whereas if you had a really thick pick, it's not gonna give as much when you're going through these strings. It's just not gonna have as much bend, obviously. So I remember I would always play with just like, you know, thick picks and, you know, thicker picks, just because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, and I didn't really have any other understanding. And now, I mean, again, if you see most of my lessons, I still use this thin pick, and my guitar still sounds great. My acoustic sounds great. The chords sound great. The pick, whether it is thin or thick, it's gonna get the job done. And it's just when you're a beginner player, you need more room for error, and you need a little bit more margin for error, and just a little bit more give and bend in your pick, because it's going to allow you to, you know, maybe not be perfect on your strum, but you're not going to lose your pick in this thing as much. So I do like thick picks. They do serve a nice purpose if you're just kind of doing maybe a softer song and just kind of some light down strums. But generally speaking, for beginners, gotta go thin pick. Gotta go thin pick. The other thing, let's see, so that was my fourth one. I think I've actually got maybe 2 extra ones in here, so two bonus tips, things that I would have liked to know as a beginner. The fifth one, though, is finger picking. So finger picking, you know, if you don't really understand how it works, or, you know, I guess maybe the organization behind it or the structure behind it. So basically what I'm trying to say is, when I was learning how to finger pick, I had no idea. I was just like picking different strings with different fingers and with no particular rhyme or reason. But I learned in years later that the thumb is responsible for these top 3 strings. And then you have your pointer on the G string, middle finger on the B string, and a ring finger on the high E string. So I call this, I don't call it, but you know, I've got a lesson on, it's called Finger Pick Like a Worship Leader with just 3 fingers. So I'll put that up there and in the description below. It makes finger picking so much easier. And it gives you, it kind of like makes sure you're assigned, each finger is assigned to specific strings, and you just keep, especially this pointer finger and the middle finger, locked in on those strings, and you don't move them, you just pick them, and it becomes so easy. So I wish, you know, somebody, I wish, I don't want to say I wish somebody would have explained that to me, but I wish I knew that earlier as a guitar player, because it makes finger picking so much easier, so much prettier, so much nicer. So that would definitely be my fifth one. I think, you know, for this last one, it's going to be one thing that it was my arch nemesis when I was playing acoustic early on, and it's this A minor chord, this freaking A minor chord. It would just, because I would have to go from like C, G, take my fingers off, go to the A minor, and then go back to the E minor or anything like that. That change, going from the regular G or C or E minor to this A minor, again, it requires you to take your pinky and ring finger off those two strings on the bottom. And it just made changing chords so much more difficult for me until I realized that there's this A minor chord you can play in the key of G. I call it the easiest A minor that just like, I don't know, no one really teaches it or shows it. You can do it, this one just in the key of G, key of G chords, and you're keeping your point or your ring and your pinky finger on there. And you're just, so like if you were doing a D chord here, just move your pointer finger up one string. And back to which strings you should be strumming. The bass note of an A minor chord is that A string, second one from the top. So you can use this as your A minor. And then you can easily go to a C or go to a G or whatever the next chord is. So I wish, I remember one song in particular, Elevation Worship, Give Me Faith. You had to go to an A minor chord and it just was totally messing me up and I couldn't get the changes quick enough and fast enough. So I think that will also really help you out. So anyways, those are the 5, I guess technically 6 things I wish I knew as a beginner player. And again, I've got all these individual lessons that I've done on all of these topics and things in the description down below. So definitely let me know if you need help on stuff, if you have questions on any of this stuff. I think these tips, if you focus on them, you practice them, I think it's really gonna take you from a beginner who doesn't really know what's going on and you don't have any structure to an actual pretty darn good guitar player with a foundation of what to play, what to practice, and what you should be doing. So yeah, hope this helps you guys out. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Love you, bye.